Today I'm back with Captain Nemo on the channel talking to you guys and comparing Diablo Immortal to Path of Exile Mobile, but we're going more in depth in part 2. What is up, my friends? My name is Echo, and you may have seen our video that we put out last week on my channel that really focused on some of the surface stuff, the surface differences between Diablo Immortal, like you see in the background, and Path of Exile Mobile that you're going to see later on in this video. Today, Nemo and I were going more in depth. We're talking about the depth of the game, the progression of the game, and even about some of the complexity that we're expecting out of Path of Exile Mobile and comparing it again to Diablo Immortal. So like we said, we have Nemo with us again today. What's going on, bro? Thanks for coming to the channel.
Hey Echo, thanks so much for having me. I'm super pumped, super excited. The entire Echo fam, everybody, we're talking about Path of Exile Mobile and of course Diablo Immortal, which I cannot wait for.
Yes, we can't wait for the game. I mean, that's basically a known thing right now. We think it's the best thing coming out in 2020. So before we go any further into the video, I'm going to ask you guys to subscribe to the channel and ring the bell for regular Diablo Immortal videos, because we're going to have a ton coming right here. We're just going to keep on bringing out content as much as I possibly can, even though we don't have the game yet. But Nemo, why don't we switch over to some Path of Exile Mobile gameplay in the background, and then we could break it down a little more. But guys, did you know that Nemo had his own YouTube channel? Well, if you didn't, Nemo, want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, it sounds good. Thanks, Echo. I have a channel on YouTube. I do a whole bunch of stuff. I do Clash of Clans. I actually do a whole bunch of other games. We're definitely going to be covering Diablo Immortal. I actually have a few videos about Diablo Immortal. I'm going to be doing some of my own comparisons with other games, etc. You definitely want to come down and hit me up with a sub. And stay tuned, because there's a lot of stuff coming. I'm super pumped and excited about that.
I'll see you guys over there. So the first thing that we're going to be talking about when we're talking about Path of Exile Mobile is the depth of the game. Nemos, take us into this one. Talk about what are we going to expect as far as depth?
Path of Exile in general, right? Now, what they talked about when Grinding Gear talked about the mobile version of Path of Exile, they said it's going to be a bite-sized version of Path of Exile. So it's basically going to be a Path of Exile game, just happens to be playing on your phone. Because of that, we can do a whole bunch of we can actually do a whole bunch of guessing, right? We know what type of play is in Path of Exile Mobile, and basically it's really complex. There's a lot of complexity there, a lot of depth in the game. Like, the first thing we can start with, if you want to compare Path of Exile to Diablo, actually Path of Exile in general is more like Diablo 2, which is a bit unforgiving. Right, there's so much complexity that honestly it takes a lot of time, and it's really hard for new players. If you're just coming into the game and you're just gonna look at, let's say, the passive skill tree that is in Path of Exile, it is like, I'd say, at least 500 times bigger than the Diablo skill tree. It is huge. It is insane. You can spend years with that, and the way it kind of works is it's so in depth. There's so many different variations of your build, because that's kind of what happens, right? You get into the game, you start grinding, you're playing, and then you start unlocking things. You get points, you get specific things that you can spend on the skill tree and build your character to a specific build.
Right.
Basically, Path of Exile is gonna get you, within the first 5 minutes of you playing the game, you're gonna have to go and find some sort of a guide that's gonna be yours, that you're gonna be able to kind of build with, because you're not, once you start spending points on a specific skill, there are so many of them that you need a lot of points. So sometimes if you don't build the right set of things, you're gonna have to go back and replay this game. It is really unforgiving to new players versus Diablo. Diablo in general is actually quite forgiving, right? You know the skill tree there and everything. It's not as big. It's complicated. There's a lot of stuff going on, but you can use skill points with other builds. With this, it is super build specific. It is very hard for new players, and it's complex and cumbersome. That's kind of like the best way I could describe Path of Exile, especially for new players.
All right, so what I'm hearing when I hear you say all of that is, for someone that played Diablo 3 and thought that it was pretty complex, but it was just enough. It was just right. They could figure out the complexity and then enjoy the game. For someone that felt that way about Diablo 3, Path of Exile, that whole franchise may be a little bit too much for them if they're looking for something that is a little bit more surface, a little less, let's research this game so we could play this game. So
100%.
Because you're gonna have to do a lot of homework, which is is a good thing and it's a bad thing depending on the player. For someone that wants to spend endless hours and really learn the guts of the game, Path of Exile Mobile may be a great option because, well, there's just more guts to explore than what we typically know from Diablo. So, yeah, man, how do you feel about it? I mean, for me, I think Diablo is a perfect mix. I mean, I don't have to do too much research. I don't have to go flipping through the encyclopedia to figure it out. But at the same time, there's a lot of depth where you can take a bunch of time.
I'm with you on that one. I love Diablo. I love 3. I've actually played Diablo 2. Some players honestly still play Diablo 2 because it's more complex, right? It requires a lot more grinding and it's very unforgiving. But this game takes it to a whole new level. That skill tree, if you take a look at that skill tree, it blew my mind as soon as I opened it. I said, what is this? There's like, it's like 500 different things that you can upgrade right from the start. And crazy. Honestly, as soon as I started playing, I mean, within the first 5 minutes of you washing up on that shore, I went to YouTube and started looking at different guides because I knew that I'm not going to sink 80 plus hours into the game and then realize, uh-oh, I didn't want this build. I wanted something else. So I got to redo it all. That's crazy. So
you said it right when you said unforgiving, man.
Yeah, it really is. So because of that, I honestly, for me, it's a bit too much. I understand some people love it and that's what they want to do, but for me, Diablo is perfect. It really is. It hits the spot.
Honestly, at the end of the day, I think both game franchises do amazing things and have a massive following behind them. I actually think that Diablo Immortal, even though everyone's all frustrated about the wait and everything right now, I think it is going to come out and crush. But I also think that Path of Exile Mobile is going to be amazing on mobile and be extremely successful. So, good thing for us mobile gamers is we are going to have 2 of probably the best action RPGs coming out this year on mobile. The next thing that we want to talk about today is progression in Path of Exile Mobile. Nemo.
Kind of the same as Diablo in a sense. There's 10 acts in Path of Exile Mobile. It's pretty similar to Diablo. There's 10 acts in Path of Exile, so we don't know what the mobile is going to be like. But like I said, very similar to Diablo as far as the PvE action goes. There's about 7 or 8 different classes, but the issue, Path of Exile takes it a step further. In Diablo, there's 7 or 8 classes, or you take the classes you play and you do your thing. Here, there's actually subclasses as well. So there's a class, and then there's 3 subclasses with each class, and on top of that, there are specific classes that actually can borrow skills from any other class. So honestly, it's quite more complex there in that sense.
So really, progression is a build and add-on to depth of the game. I mean, honestly, everything that we're talking about is further discussing how deep, complex, intricate the game actually is.
Correct. Yeah, 100%. There are a few differences. Like in PvE, when you're talking about Path of Exile, there isn't any kind of loot, there isn't any gold or anything like that. They actually have gems, and those gems are used to upgrade your equipment. It's a bit different. Again, it's a bit more complex. So because of that, it adds some depth to it. And as far as the progression goes, there's a PvE aspect and a PvP aspect. But in general, it's really close to Diablo. There's also something called seasons, just like in Diablo, where things reset. It's here it's every 3 months it resets. So I'm sure they're definitely gonna be bringing that to the mobile aspect of it. So it's kind of the same, I would say, just a bit more complex.
Yeah, and that makes total sense. I think everyone that's a fan of this type of game understands that already and knows that Path of Exile is a Diablo-like game with more depth, more complexity. The last point that we're going to be talking about today is free-to-play versus pay-to-play. We know that when you play Diablo on PC or console, you pay for the game and you play the game. But with Path of Exile, it's a free-to-play game. So when we're going to be getting these on mobile, I mean, we know that these are going to be free-to-play games. So monetization is up in the air right now. No one really knows exactly. Everybody's worried about pay-to-win. Diablo Immortal is not going to be a paid game. You don't have to pay to get it. It will be downloaded for free, and there'll be ways to pay for things inside of the game. But Nemo, what thoughts do you have about this?
Well, I can tell you that, like you said, Diablo is You pay for it and you get it, and then you get updates and all that good stuff. Now in Path of Exile, it is free, and they very much don't. They really push the whole no pay to win thing, and it's true. It's free, but there are things that you got to pay for in Path of Exile Mobile. Oh, I'm sorry, the Path of Exile game. Like for example, if you want more like storage bags or things, or if you want premium bags that give you a few things, it's not something that gives you. I wouldn't say it's something that gives you a better skill or anything like that, but it just makes things easier, right? So
convenience upgrades, right?
Yeah. And I mean that kind of stuff. I mean, to be honest with you, the bags, I like my bag. I like to keep stuff, and especially when you have such a complex system, you might want specific gems or whatever. So that to me is, yeah, it's not pay to win, but I mean, most people are gonna pick up extra bags if you ask me.
Yeah, I'm one of them. When I played Diablo 3 with you, I maxed out my storage slots. Like within the first few hours of playing the game, I wanted space, and they're already full. I gotta actually go in and empty them out.
Me too, actually. Me too. And I have 8 bags that's maxed out. They're full. Yeah, it's crazy. But the other thing that Path of Exile kind of talks about is, so they have a lot of cosmetic items, and those cosmetic items are not free. They're not only they're not free, they're super expensive. They're actually you can spend up to almost like $40 on just like one single item, and it is absolutely in loot boxes. So it is. Those are cosmetic items, and you don't need them for the game, but they are in loot boxes, and that's what a lot of people actually complain about when it comes to Path of Exile. In my opinion, that's the only weak thing about the game.
Yeah, but that's not stuff you need. It's cosmetic. I mean, you want cosmetic things. There is absolutely zero need for any of that. So, I mean, it's something people could always find things to complain about, but for something saying that you want this certain mask or suit or armor, if it's just cosmetic, really not that big.
Agreed. Well, it's $40 though. So.
It's expensive, but that just makes you more of an OG if you have to rock it, I guess, right?
That's true.
But guys, that's our discussion today, talking about the depth, talking about the complexity, and then touching on the pay to win or the monetization that we already know from the existing games and kind of predicting where they're going to be. So Nemo, you think that they're going to be, I mean, Diablo Immortal we know is going to be free to play. Path of Exile, I mean, they wouldn't come out with a version that's paid when their main game already is free to play. So we're pretty much expecting the same monetization schemes, correct?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's gonna be free to play like Diablo, and especially if you watch the trailer. I mean, that's the first thing they say. No, they say it's gonna be free. There's gonna be no loot boxes and no pay to win. So I kind of want to see what exactly they come up with, because they do talk a very strong big game in those in those new previews for Path of Exile Mobile. But in general, I mean, they're gonna have to put something in there. You can't have a game that's free. You gotta pay for it somehow, some way. So I don't know.
Somehow, some way, the developer has to make money, or else the game fails. Gamers need to understand that, whether it be a PC, console, or mobile game, they need to make money, or else the game is gonna stink and never get an update. So we're gonna close it out right here, guys. Thanks for sticking around. We jumped back to some Diablo Immortal footage, but Nemo, my man, it's always a pleasure having you on the channel.
Thank you so much for having me, Echo. It's always a pleasure being here. Super fun. This goes by so quick. Once we start, I don't even know when we're finished. So I'm super pumped and excited. Thank you, entire Echo fam, for having me. And I hope to see you again here soon.
You got it, man. You're always welcome back in the channel. You know what we should do? We should hop on some Diablo 3. I'm really in the mood to play right now. Hop on Twitch. If you guys want to actually come follow me on Twitch, that's my schedule, and it's down in the description of this video, the link to the channel. I'm live streaming 4 to 5 times per week over on Twitch, 12 p.m. Eastern. We do a lot of Clash of Clans, but we're also doing some Diablo stuff too. So hopefully you guys will come through and join me on that. But again, thank you so much, Nemo, and we are out of here for today, guys. Make sure you check out the first install of our video that we popped out not long ago on Diablo Immortal versus Path of Exile Mobile. We're out of here. See all you guys back here later on today or tomorrow or on a live stream with another video. Take care, guys, and be good.